Okay, today is a fairly simple day because this is everything we're going to talk about. We've done this exact worksheet last year in geometry. So this time we're going to look at circles and graphing circles on the coordinate plane. We're not getting as in depth as we did in geometry, but we are going to look at this today. And then next class, we're going to look at parabolas and how those two interact with one another. This is kind of a big unit, so I just broke it up into two pieces to make it a little bit more manageable for you guys. Keep in mind your ACT and SAT test dates and when you need to register. At this point, it's too late to register for the March 14th SAT date, but it's not too late to do the April 4th one. The last day to do this one is February 29th. I'm a little hesitant about you guys testing already just because we haven't covered all the information yet. But I really do need you guys signing up for these June 13th and May 2nd dates. It'll be fresh after this semester. We would have covered everything, and you should be quite prepared for that. Even though we're covering all this content in class, I still recommend that you guys get an ACT or SAT test prep book and look at some of this stuff on your own because I can only cover so much. And these tests are big, and the better you do, the more scholarships you're able to get. If you get accepted into a college, that college might give you even more money just because your ACT and SAT scores are higher. So keep those in mind as well. And now we're going to look at equations of circles. So the first of this is really easy. And we're, like I said, we're reviewing what we talked about last year in geometry. Your formula, which I would assume you guys get this on the ACT and SAT because you do get a formula sheet, is you get x minus h squared y minus k squared equals your radius squared. So h, k, and r are what change. Everything else stays the same. H and k are your center of your circle, and r is your radius. So we're going to look at an example. So looking, same formula. X and y are always there. They don't change. But we are given a center that's h and k, and your radius, which is r. So it's x minus h, so x minus 5, y minus k, which is y minus 2, and then it's your radius squared. All we're going to do is simplify from this. So you end up getting x minus 5 squared plus y minus 2 squared. And then we're just going to simplify this right here. 7 squared is 49. So that's the equation of a circle. We're going to do another example. X and y don't change. You're given h and k. So it's x minus a negative 3, y minus 4, and then we're going to put this in parentheses 2 root 5 squared. Now we simplify. Negative and a negative make this a positive 3. Still y minus 4. And then this other part, all you have to do is put it in your calculator. Again, if it's a calculator portion of the ACT and SAT, use your calculator for these basic functions so you don't lose points off of this. Make sure when you're under the radical, you arrow over to get out of that. Square it, and you get 20. Okay, so there's some practice for you guys to do here. Remember, it's always minus h and minus k, so you're going to change the signs of every piece. I do want to look at number 3 really quick. It's x minus 3 and y minus 0 equals 1/3 squared. When we reduce this, you get x minus 3, but y minus 0 is just going to be y, so it's plus y squared, so it just looks simply like this, and then plus 1 squared is 1, 3 squared is 9, which gives you 1/9, and that's how you do that one. So anytime you're given a 0, it's just going to be either x squared or y squared, depending on where it is. Okay, now we're getting into going from standard to general form or vice versa. And what this requires is completing the square. And I have a shortcut, which we're going to talk about. And we talked about this last year as well. I think all geometry teachers use the same thing. But we're going from this complex looking thing to the form we just had. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to group our x's. You're going to group your y's as well. You're going to move the constant and leave 2 spaces. I'm going to show you what this means. Some of you might recall this from last year. So we group our x's. So we have x squared plus 16x. And this says we're going to leave 2 spaces. We're going to leave one with the x. And we're going to leave one with the y. So we're going to group our y's now. We have y squared minus 22y. Another space. And then this equals, this says move the constant. So we're going to take this negative 20, we're going to move it to the other side. And to move it to the other side, it becomes a positive 20. So it equals a 20. And then what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we're going to also add 2 more spaces. So this is your first step. You first group your x's, leave a space, group your y's, leave a space. Make sure your constant is on the other side. If it's already over there, you don't need to move it, but it needs to be on the other side. And then what you do to one side, you do to the other. Now, we're going to complete these squares. So we are going to find that number that's going to go in these boxes. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take half of the linear term. So our linear term for here is 16. We're going to half it and then square it. So 16 divided by 2 is 8. 8 squared is 64. What we do to one side, we do to the other. Now we're going to do the same thing with this y constant. We have negative 22 divided by 2 and then squared. So half of negative 22 is negative 11. And when we square that, we get a positive 121 because negative times a negative is a positive. Again, what we do to one side, we do to the other. Okay, next part is to simplify. And I've come up with kind of a shortcut for this because this is a lot to memorize, so we're going to just use a shortcut. So my shortcut for this is variable of first term, sine of second term, and square root of the third term. So the variable for the x's is x, sine of the middle term is a positive, and then square root of 64 is 8. It's also this number right here. With y, we have our y variable. Sine of the second term is negative 22, or you can just use this number in here, which is negative 11. And then we just simplify this side. And again, please don't make simple mistakes just because you don't want to get out the calculator. If it's a calculator portion, use your calculator so you don't get points off for simple mistakes, and you get 205. And so from here, we can get our center and radius. So remember, in standard form, it's minus h minus k. So when we take h and k out, we change the signs. So the center is hk, so negative 8. Remember, we changed the sign. K is positive 11. And then your radius is the square root of this number. So it's square root of 205. This number does not reduce, so that's our answer. Okay. Let's look at another example. We're going to do everything over, same thing. So we're going to group our x's. We have x squared and negative 12x. And we're going to add our space. Then we're going to group our y's. Y squared plus 8y. Add our space. And then it's going to equal, remember we have to move our constant, so it's a positive 32. When we move it over, it becomes a negative 32. And then we're going to add 2 more spaces, because what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Okay, now we're going to figure out what numbers are going to go into these spaces. So we take our negative 12 divided by 2, which gives us negative 6. Square that, and we get 36. Then we take our 8. Half of 8 is 4. 4 squared is 16. And again, what we do to one side, we do to the other. Always. Equal means balance. We have to keep our balance on both sides. So now we factor variable of the first, this number, or sine of the second, square root of 36 is 6. And then y plus 4. And again, use your calculator. Remember, if you're doing negative, you got to use this button. So this button right here, right at the bottom, gives you a negative. So it's negative 32 plus 36 plus 16, and you get 20. And then we can find our information, our center. Remember, you've got to change the sign. It's a positive 6 and a negative 4. And our radius is the square root of 20, which can be reduced. What perfect square goes in a 20? It's 4. And 4 times 5 gives us 20. Square root of 4 is 2. And root 5 can't be simplified. So you get 2 root 5 is your radius. And that's pretty much everything you guys need to know about graphing circles. Next class, we're going to look at parabolas.